Patch 3.28 is coming with a lot of changes in the league, which include a new endgame rework as well as the mechanic itself, and I have a video dedicated to those topics, so you can check that out if you're interested. But as well as that, it's also coming with quite a few other changes, including changes to Breach and changing the way it works slightly and how we interact with Breach. We're also getting new skill gems, mainly focused around holy skills, as well as getting some rebalance on existing skills. We are also getting ascendancy changes, as well as getting a completely new ascendancy for the Scion. And there's also quite a few changes in regards to currencies and that sort of stuff. So let's break it all down and see what's actually changing. Firstly, let's talk about what's changing within Breach. So now the Hive mechanic within Breach has been simplified a little bit and made easier to actually do. So the Hive walls can now be destroyed by projectiles. Walls can also chain more often when they explode, and Hive encounters in general are a lot smaller. So this should make it quite a bit easier for people to sort of break all the walls around the hives and start the encounter. There's also going to be changes to the Hive Fortress. So the Hive Fortress now will also include an extra button like your typical power-ups that you get from there that will increase the difficulty of the mobs, and this will gain you extra rewards. So the more sort of you stack those difficulty modifiers, the better the rewards will be, which is a great change. And also one of the nicer ones is we are now getting multiple unstable breaches that can spawn again via a Atlas passive. Important to note that you can also still pick whichever breach encounter you prefer and block the other one. So if you prefer doing the unstable breaches, you can spend an Atlas point to do just those, or you can spend an Atlas point to just do the Hive encounters if you're a fan of those. Me personally, I'm more of a fan of the unstable encounters as they're just quick and easy to do, and it's just killing monsters. I do think the Hive wall changes are all nice and it will make it feel a little bit better. But my overall issues with that mechanic or that part of Breach is that it just kind of is way too intrusive on your gameplay and stops you from doing the map, and the NPC takes a long time to spawn and start the encounter, as well as the waves taking way too long. As far as the Genesis tree goes, there's quite a few changes for that. So now the Genesis tree will have full points unlocked and you don't need to farm or progress for each of those points, which is great. Also, the modifier values have been adjusted. So these are the values around the 300% increased chance to get a certain modifier and the 85% chance to get a less modifier. So that's also very good. And there's been broad nerfs to the average item value, as well as the factoring modifier still existing. Now in what form we don't know. Is it still going to be guaranteed, or is it going to be some sort of percent based chance? We still have to wait and find out with that one. And also one of the big ones with the item crafting is you can no longer craft rare weapons or quivers anymore. And in terms of the breach mechanic itself, the graft stuff is obviously removed, so you no longer have grafts. Now also one other thing that's been kept is the foulborn unique stuff, so you can still have foulborn uniques and craft them, albeit with some of those foulborns being nerfed within the patch notes. Do let me know how you feel about that. So let's talk about exceptional gems and skill changes. So we now no longer have awakened support gems. They are completely gone and they've been replaced by exceptional support gems. So now we know we're going to have around 40 in total, at least for this patch. And these are sort of more aimed at your end game progression. So what's cool about these is there won't just be sort of numerical changes or damage changes to those gems. They'll instead also have some sort of mechanical change within the support itself. So that's interesting to see. We also have some new additions in the form of some new holy skills. So we've seen quite a few now. There's a holy slam, there's a retaliate, and there's a few others, as well as one or two supports coming, mainly around sort of, again, that sort of holy theme. But we're also getting sweep getting replaced by holy sweep now, which converts a portion of your damage from lightning. In terms of actual abilities being nerfed, there wasn't too much in the patch notes in terms of balance changes to skill gems, but there's been a few nerfs to DD. Bird Shatter got a pretty big nerf, Penance Band got nerfed slightly but it's still usable, and Viper Strike got a pretty big nerf also. So interesting to see where those skills will land in the meta for this season. We also have some nice changes in terms of Orb of Storms, where we can use Spell Echo with it. And there's also a nice change for Spectres. No longer lose hidden conversion scaling, but gain scaling after level 20. So yeah, overall decent changes on that side. And on the support change side, we're getting multiple projectiles, volley, spell echo, no longer stack with greater versions. We did get a nerf to auto exertion, reservation, and over exertion nerfs. So that's what's affecting a lot of the slam skills. So yeah, slams got hit pretty hard also. So quite a few skills they're getting nerfed. Personally, I would have liked to have seen sort of some buffs on some underused skills, perhaps just general buff to especially like early leveling gems and that sort of stuff, so we can switch up the leveling meta, because it does feel pretty stale right now and it can get pretty boring just running the same skill over and over for the past like 3-4 leagues now. So I'm hoping to see them at least next patch. So as far as Ascendancies and Bloodlines go, so one of the big ones is that we are getting a new Ascendancy called the Reliquarian for the Scion Ascendancy. Now this is a very interesting Ascendancy as it gives you points that are based upon unique items within the game. And the cool thing about this is that they said that they're going to change what these ascendancy points are every single league. So that should be very interesting, as it can open up a lot of build options in terms of each league, what might be viable with the actual ascendancy itself. Now we are also getting a couple of nerfs to ascendancies. So Chieftain Ignite Proliferation was nerfed slightly, and the big nerf to Elementalist Golem effect was nerfed quite a bit, so the 50% increased effect of golems is no longer there anymore. We're getting some buffs mainly for the Guardian, Warden and Saboteur, so glad to see that at least some of the underused ascendancies are getting buffed. And also we are going to get a new bloodline ascendancy from the new boss, so yeah, be on the lookout for that, as well as all the other ascendancies getting buffed in some ways, or most of them, which is, again, it's nice to see stuff getting buffed. Overall great changes. Would love to have seen, you know, some more changes to some of the ascendancies, especially like, again, the underused ones. And then obviously Elementalist getting kind of gutted with this golem nerf kind of stuff, and that's not getting replaced with anything else. So would have been nice if they added something else for that. But overall, good changes. And Harbinger, well, Harbinger is completely not there anymore. It's gone. They have said that they might bring it back at a later date with a sort of rework in one of the next patches, maybe. We'll have to see what happens with that. But luckily, we're still getting the fracturing orbs, ancient orbs. That stuff is going to be now a global drop, so you can find them from anywhere, which is great. And we also have some specific currencies related to that are being removed. So engineering orbs are gone, Harbinger orbs are gone, horizon orbs are gone, and obviously most of the currency shards are also going to be completely gone. So yeah, not too bad. I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan of Harbinger myself, but it's good to see at least fracturing orbs in the core drop pool. So that should be interesting finding one. Moving on to the Kingsmarch changes, and there's quite a few here. So one of the big ones is the crops and ore rewards have been swapped. So previously, where crops used to give you currency rewards, they are now swapped with ores. So now ores are going to be the main way you're going to be getting currency rewards from shipping. Now this is a great change, because when they threw the farming, just meant that you're just going to sit there passively, but whereas now you have to actually interact with your maps and do the Kingsmarch sort of carobs and get more ores in order for you to actually gain those currency rewards. So you'll see them less common. As well as this, there's some new ports being added, as well as the option to re-roll your ports and re-roll the actual favors that they're asking for. So that's a nice change. There's also going to be ports that reward specific tattoos or ruin graphs now, and one of the big other changes is mappers now are going to cost 25% more, which is, yeah, again, some other way to sink your gold. Overall, it's heading in the right direction. I mean, I think it will still kind of feel mandatory to set up your Kingsmarch and do all that stuff. It still kind of feels like a chore. Would have been good if they just gave us all these sort of recruits and we just need to use them, but you still have to sort of make your Kingsmarch and start running your mappers, and it's still gonna feel like a bit of a chore, but hopefully it won't feel as much of a chore and it'll feel better for those players that are actually specifically going for ores in their map. And for the item changes, so grand currency they've said has been buffed for valuable currencies. Now what that means exactly, we don't know. They said it's about double, so you know, maybe you're going to expect more chaos orbs, perhaps more divine orbs, that sort of stuff. That would be nice, especially with obviously the concerns that the community has been having with a lot of the ground loot stuff. There is obviously overall nerfs to the Kingsmarch and Genesis gear that you actually get. So on average, you'll be getting slightly worse gear from those mechanics, as well as there being sort of new clusters for holy themed stuff. So we'll have to wait and see what those are exactly. One of the big ones is also the Harvest Flask enchants being removed, which is, you know, again, kind of sucks for those people that like to run those enchants. But we are getting essence stack increased to 10 and the itemized beast lower gold fees. So that's a nice change. Overall, it's good to see them at least trying stuff with Grand Loot and trying to nerf Kingsmarch a little bit. We'll see how it plays out in the end, with the ore stuff being the main form of currency. Overall, yeah, it's headed in the right direction. I still think there's going to need to be quite a bit more ground loot changes. They have said that 3.29 they'll start focusing more on that sort of stuff. So if it doesn't hit the mark this time, I'm sure I'll buff it for next week. Overall, I think the whole slew of changes coming to 3.28, there's so much there and a lot of changes, and it's going to make the games feel new again, which I feel like we haven't felt as players probably for a couple of years now. It's been pretty stale. The meta's been stale. The end game's been stale. So a lot of these changes are going to be touching on those things, and overall, yeah, it's going to be like a really fun league. It's going to feel new. It's going to, you know, it's going to be a lot of discovering and that sort of stuff. There's a lot of refreshing things coming to the league, and it's great to see that they also have a dedicated POE 1 team now. So we don't need to worry about sort of the resources being taken from POE 1 devs to work on POE 2. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment